Isn't it nice that we get to play in a competition that we can win in? Arsenal go to face Molde in the Europa League in what is our fourth match day fixture in the Europa League this season. A win would effectively qualify us for the next round with relative ease. Winning the last two games can be looked at as opportunities for even more squad rotation, but of course we do still have to get the 3 points, and that's something that Arsenal have struggled to do in the league anyway. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction Preview Show. This is where we look ahead to the next Arsenal fixture. The day ahead of every single game, you will see a show on TGT the day before a game, and we will be previewing it with lineups and predictions and thoughts and analysis ahead of what will hopefully become a lot more prolific, prestigious fixtures in Europe, we shall say, as we get through the season. But we are up against Molde after we, of course, won fairly comfortably. The scoreline certainly was fairly comfortable at the Emirates, but the match that played out at the start certainly was not the case, and it required a couple of bangers going in from some of the guys to get us over the line. I hope you are well, chat box. I hope you're doing fantastic. Good afternoon, good evening, if you are, of course, in the eastern part of the world, and good morning if you're in the west. And good midday, I suppose, if you're joining us from somewhere in Europe. Hello and welcome for joining us. So if you're looking towards this game, it's ultimately a fixture which we need to win, just to kind of relieve pressure on the last two games, and obviously then enable us effectively to use these players a lot more, not necessarily cautiously, but a lot more a rotation going into those games where you've got the opportunity to play players like Balogun, play players like Aziz, Cottrell, like get these young guys more minutes playing in this competition, playing with the senior players too. It's really good for their development to do so. And by getting a win in this game, it's important that we can do that in those final two fixtures. So let's have a look at what I've gone for my desired lineup. There may be some differences to what you would personally go for. Let me know in the chat box, or if you're watching on playback, make sure you leave a comment in the comments section below. So we've got Runnison in goal. It's just, for me, I'm really struggling to see why Leno starts. Just rest the guy. Just play Runnison. I know he's not the best goalkeeper in the world, but just rest the guy for the moment. Cedric, Mustafi, Louise and Mainsley as the back four. Of course, Kolasinac is still out, supposedly with the COVID-19 self-isolation period. Louise is a bit of a not sure. I didn't see him get on the plane. I've not seen any pictures suggest that he was or was not there. He has, of course, just had a baby, so that may mean that he doesn't play. If that is the case, I'd expect to see one of Holding or Gabriel being played. But we could even see Callum Chambers come in and play into that game. So absolutely interesting to see what happens in that regard. Granit Xhaka then comes into the picture as a centre defensive midfielder in front of what I'm looking at as a really interesting and kind of experimental midfield pairing of Joe Willock and Emile Smith-Rowe. Emile Smith-Rowe has done fantastically well for the under-23 since coming back from injury, scoring goals for fun, of course playing in different positions on the pitch, has played on the wing, can play centrally, but I'd like him to really get a good chance in this game to go in and start. I just think it's a bit of a for me, I just don't know why we wouldn't play him, is honestly my thinking behind that. Then the front three of Nelson, Nketiah and Nicola Pepe. Now, Lacazette is not there. I really struggled to kind of come up with a lineup to fit Pepe and Lacazette and Nketiah and Nelson in. It would mean going to, of course, a 4-4-2, but when you don't have kind of enough players to rotate, and that comes down to players being out, that comes down to there not being enough options, then I'm kind of struggling. I would like to have seen Mainsley playing more of a midfield position, but because of Kolasinac's situation, we haven't really got that opportunity, to be honest. So that's a really sad situation that we can't actually push forward with more squad rotation. So let me know what you think about the chat box. David Keefe says, hi Tom, I would love to see Emile Smith-Rowe in this team. Chris says that he's imagining that Lacazette will play also. So that's going to be interesting to see if either of those two do end up starting. Lacazette, I imagine, we could definitely see him start alongside Nketiah. Now, the players that I've not included in this team that obviously have travelled are Miguel Aziz and Balogun, following Balogun, who obviously got minutes against, I believe it was against Molde last time when we played at home, came on for the kind of the end of the game, but it's interesting to see how many minutes those two get, if any. I'd like to see them get enough minutes that obviously we're enough up in terms of goals in the game that we can afford to put them in. But what I'm interested to see is if they do come in, what kind of impact they're going to have. There is really kind of high thinking regarding Miguel Aziz as someone that can come in and possibly see a route into the first team. It's kind of like a similar route as what we've seen with Joe Willock take, and if he can get more minutes into this, it can be interesting. Ben Cottrell, as Daniel Roberts says, has also travelled and is someone that is very highly thought of in the under-23 setup as well. He's a goal scorer midfielder. He's scored a couple of goals this season, and certainly someone that I think can also see minutes. I'm surprised he didn't actually go out on loan. Miguel Aziz nearly went off to Charlton, but that never materialised. But I'm interested to see how many minutes these guys play. I'm interested to see if any of them start. Obviously, the most likely one that we've not seen starting that will get a start is Emile Smith-Rowe, and I'm hoping that he can really take that opportunity. We've done plenty of shows on the channel where we've talked about Emile Smith-Rowe. We talked to David Webb, who's of course the former head of football operations at Huddersfield Town. He's the guy that signed Emile Smith-Rowe to them. And speaking to him more recently on 101 Great Goals in an interview, which is available for you guys to read at your leisure, he was very, very, very praising of Emile Smith-Rowe and basically put him into a position where he felt he can be starting in Premier League matches right now. So he's exceptionally highly thought of, and he's got really good experience playing. I know he didn't get much time playing in RB Leipzig, but he went out there. It's an experience for him, and that definitely gave him that little bit more of kind of versatility to his game and experience. And then when he went off to Huddersfield, that was also good, and he helped them stay up in the Championship. So the fact that he's ultimately coming through is really good for us. I just really hope that ultimately Arteta is going to be a coach that can give us something. Omar says Tom Willett didn't do enough on Sunday to warrant a start. Now, I'd say, Omar, as I said, I don't think he did enough on Sunday to warrant a continuous start in the Premier League. Whereas in the Europa League, I think, again, this is his competition. He's scored a couple of goals so far, and I think that's ultimately something that he can do really well with. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, he can kind of turn that form around and move on from... He was clearly very disappointed, wasn't he, when he came off the pitch against Leeds with his performance. I think that was very, very evident in his body language. Jabulani says that his lineup, restart the game in quick, says Tierney, Gabriel, Chambers and Mainsley as a back four. Emile Smith-Rowe, Willock and Ceballos in the midfield with Nelson, Lacazette and Pepe. So a few differences to what I've picked. Interesting to see you've gone with Chambers. Can someone let me know in the chat box if we know if Chambers has travelled? I haven't seen any images with him travelling so far, so it'd be interesting to see. Chris says, I would have the same lineup, but I would go to a 4-4-2 with Eddie and Laka up top and Pepe on the bench. Interesting. Is that down to his actions at the weekend? Not thinking he deserves a start, but the latest information that we've got is that he will likely be starting because he's not going to be playing in the Premier League games for the next three fixtures. He's going to miss the Wolves, Spurs and Burnley games, and so obviously that means that he's going to be mostly used as a rotation player in the Europa League for the next 3 weeks, which is a long time for him not to be playing consistent football right now. Machiavelli says, I would like Willian to start instead of Pepe. Mac, I'm interested to know if that's the reason for you not wanting him to start in the Premier League in the next game, which I would completely understand based upon what he obviously has had to... Not he's had to deal with, but more necessarily that we've had to deal with Willian's performances. It's not great. So let's round off our 10-minute preview show with predictions. Predictions in this game it's always going to be fun, predicting the Europa League games more than anything else. I'm not 100% sure that we're going to see a host of goals. Arsenal typically and creatively have not been in that vein of form of scoring a lot of goals. I still think we'll win the game. I feel like Molde are actually a decent side that could nick a goal, so I'm going to go with 2-1 to the Arsenal in this game. It will not be as comfortable as what we saw at the Emirates. I'm not expecting the pitch to be as good. I'm not expecting the situation to be as good. I'm expecting Molde, who know if they can get anything in this game, it will probably mean that they get qualification through if they can also pick up the points against Rapid and against Dundalk. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat box. Max going for 3-1. Chris is going 2-0. Rohit is going for 2-0. AK is going for 3-0 to the Arsenal. Bernard is going 2-0 to the Arsenal. Or we could go full strength and build some momentum, but he's going to go with 2-1 Arsenal. I did contemplate that. I just think with the amount of players that we've got question marks over, there's not really... It's not really worth, in my mind, risking players at the moment. And we need to kind of temper, especially with the intensity of fixtures that we've had, kind of temper that want and need to play the first team as much as possible. Karthik says 2-0. Nelson's going to score. Tom says 2-1, going 1-0 down in the first half. Nick Parris says 4-0 to the Arsenal. And Machiavelli reckons that Mainsley is going to score. David Keefe is going for a Tom. I think 0-0 seems to be the new DNA for the Gunners at the moment. So there's mixed results, but I think overall it's fairly positive. It's going to be interesting to obviously see how well we perform. Zeph is saying 2-1 and AK reckons that ESR is going to score a brace. So thank you so much for listening. I know it's been pretty short. Our preview shows typically are on a Wednesday, seeing as my shifts run from 2 to 11 p.m. at night for 101 on a Wednesday, so we only do short shows. Then what I would say is if you haven't checked it out already, yesterday we did a brand new show called Let's Talk Arsenal. It's going to happen, as far as I'm aware, and as long as nothing changes, at 5 o'clock every single Tuesday in the afternoon UK time. So that's what, midday in the West and quite late in the evening in the East. So hopefully that gives people that are further along in the world on the Eastern side to get a chance to catch a late show and not have to catch up on things. I think it's nice doing a show kind of later in the afternoon UK time, so it's more accessible for a lot more people. It also is a chance for me to have a chat and a sit down with one other guest about a topic of discussion. Yesterday, myself and Adam talked about Arsenal's recruitment over the last, say, 7-8 years, and kind of built upon the fact that things are looking up more recently, and we've got a lot of positivity to look towards, and we've got a lot of mistakes to learn from. But it's interesting. I'd love to get your thoughts on some topics that we could discuss. I imagine that we'll end up discussing things like Nicola Pepe, things like the midfield, things like the January transfer window, things like youth products and stuff like that. But it's an opportunity to have a show that's completely malleable and really give a really good opportunity to talk about lots of different Arsenal-related topics. But I hope you drop a like on the video today. I hope you subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and of course turn those notifications on so you never miss a show, and join up as a member if you want to get access to exclusive content. Over the next 5 days, our TGT Plus Expert and Ambassador members will be getting access to their exclusive Plus member podcast, where I'm joined by one of our podcast regulars to have a more casual sit-down chat about the current Arsenal situation and about random stuff as well. I joined my last one with French, and that was a really nice chat to talk about kind of social media, gaming as well that came up. But yeah, it was a nice chat and discussion. I can't wait to show you the exclusive content that's coming out for you guys in the coming months. I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.